just gonna jump quickly into the Jumpstart report itself to share some tools that may be useful, especially following that panel. Um, Particularly, if you were intrigued by some of the data that was included from EdSource with their mapping tool, we at EdTrust West developed a mapping tool in the Jumpstart report itself to kind of highlight a lot of the gaps that were provided and spoke about earlier today in terms of representation of our students in different districts. The Jumpstart report has a special landing page, which you may see also in your programs underneath this particular session that you can follow, and you can find a number of resources there, including student and family supports, conversation guides, both of those being extremely useful if you're speaking to somebody who's not quite informed about dual enrollment and the way that it can be used as a lever for equity. We also have several infographics which you may see in the hallway outside that speak to our Black and Latinx student populations. Lastly, we would strongly encourage you to utilize this in your ongoing work. And we even have guides as far as building up dual enrollment programs in terms of connecting different districts and developing partnerships. And with that, I'm just going to pass it to my colleagues here at Career Ladders Project to walk you through the next steps of how to navigate this process.
Everyone. Good morning, good morning. And so, as Sesen mentioned, there's some resources here as well that you will have access to. We're getting through the slides here. Again, I just think that panel that we just heard, if you haven't been energized, hopefully you'll take some time to process what you've heard. And again, in the back of your program, you will see some tools that will take you from some of the thoughts and questions and ideas that you have and putting it into action. Right? We had a session yesterday where we talked with some practitioners, and it's really moving from equity mindedness to equity practitioners. Right? And so really seeing what that looks like. So hopefully some of these tools that you'll see will help you and your partnerships get there. So one of the first documents that you will see is something that says, who's the team members? Who needs to be at the table? List those folks there and have that shared vision. We heard from the panelists earlier talking about co-construction of ideas and thoughts, not doing it in isolation, mitigating those silos. So again, what is that shared vision between your institutions? And then really having a discrete goal. And so you can see examples from there. In addition to that, the next step after you've laid that part out is looking at some of those key root causes and conditions. Kylie spoke earlier about when she saw that data, some of it was jarring because folks are doing their best, trying their hardest, but really looking at where those equity gaps exist and what needs to change. Right? Because we don't necessarily just want to maintain the status quo. What needs to change and what are those root causes, and getting real with that and seeing how you can collaborate to create those connections to mitigate those disparities. Subsequent to that, again, the fun part, the action planning. What do you actually need to do? What are the actions? What are those resources needed to arrive at those actions? What are the outputs that you're hoping to see? And how are you connecting this to various institutional priorities? So our K-12 partners may look at their LCAPs, our college partners may look at their student equity plans or their seat plans, other sort of equity goals, and tying that and connecting all these initiatives. We've heard the call to action this morning, and so really making it so that it's not extra, but integrated opportunities for your partnerships. In this work, we need to be mindful of equity guardrails, right? Again, everyone, for the most part, is very well-intentioned. We want to improve access, particularly for our minoritized populations, but we need to be mindful, we need to be mindful of those equity guardrails. What does that mean? So let's say the goal is to increase Black African-American students' participation and success in your dual enrollment programming. You have that increased participation, but what happens if you don't have those necessary supports and conditions for success? And then that has an unintended consequence. So being mindful of that, not letting it stop progress, but creating conditions for students to succeed, specifically the demographics and student populations that you're looking to serve more equitably.
So I just wanted to, again, land on the QR code. It is also in your program. That template that we developed for planning around providing more equitable dual enrollment is in your program. Sesen and Laurencia are super awesome and amazing. They thought they had 45 minutes originally to do this, and then we didn't. So they're just incredibly flexible folks. But if you haven't checked out the Jumpstart report and tool, please check it out. It gives participation rates for Black, African American, Latinx, and Native students in dual enrollment for all community college districts in the state, and then compares them to the local high school population. You can see high, medium, and low representation of each of these groups, and they give actual numeric goals. Like if you wanted to reach parity, this is how many students you need to reach. And that makes it very human, and it makes it very doable, so we're not overwhelmed by these percentages. As Kylie mentioned early on, it's not a gotcha report card. It's like, wow, these are the areas, these are our opportunities to increase. This is where our work is. So thank you so much, Seth, and thank you so much, Laurencia. Okay.